Hello Humanity, highlighting humanity one vibe at a time, because little by little, piece by piece, we are a masterpiece.
If you don't know, now you know. Cleopatra, the queen of Egypt, had a child with Julius Caesar, the ruler of Rome, as well as Mark Antony, the ruler of Rome, to follow Julius Caesar. Let me tell you what happened. Okay, so Rome is taking over the entire world, right? And they plan to take over Egypt, the last huge civilization besides themselves. Now, Cleopatra hears about this and she is not having it. So Cleopatra, as the myth goes, Cleopatra rolled herself into a rug and had her sent to Rome to Julius Caesar to be given as a gift. And when she gets to Julius Caesar, she's rolled out of the rug and presents herself to him, seduces him, and becomes his lover, although he was already buried. And relationships with foreigners is super taboo at this time. Not to mention the fact that women at this time are supposed to be very submissive. But Cleopatra is outspoken, courageous. She has this charisma and beauty that is spoken about as more than just appealing, but as magical. And through this story, it proves itself. So Cleopatra's infiltrated, and her and Julius Caesar sparked this relationship. And they are just head over heels in love. He's in love with her, and they end up having a son together who they named Caesarion, also known as Little Caesar. And side fact, Caesarion, if you've heard of Caesarean section, C-section, when it comes to giving birth, the Caesarean, this is where that term comes from, because as the myth goes, Cleopatra gave birth to Caesarion this way, that he had to be cut out. So they had this relationship, and they had this son, and Caesarion was giving rulership over Egypt. He was second in command to Cleopatra at only 3 years old. And he also had rulership rights in Rome as well. Although Julius Caesar had an adopted son, his nephew Octavian. Now, the Senate did not like the fact that Julius Caesar had taken up this relationship and had a child with the Queen of Egypt, a whole nother empire, not to mention one they had originally planned to take over. Now, it seems that Julius Caesar is submissive to Cleopatra, which was just completely wrong. Despite the fact that Cleopatra was actually getting in well with his friends, she had actually helped to get the return of Mark Antony, Caesar's deputy at the time, and also Cleopatra's future lover and baby daddy in the future. Cleopatra also had her Egyptian astronomers help Caesar and the Empire of Rome fix their currently defective Roman calendar to their now fixed Julian calendar. The same calendar that we still are going off of today, the 365 days a year. Like I said, the Senate absolutely hated this. They hated Cleopatra. They hated the hold that he had on them. They hated the example this was setting for Rome. And they hated that they were missing out on Egypt added to their empire. They absolutely hated it. So, when Julius Caesar starts wanting to get his son, Caesarion, ownership rights in Rome as well, the Senate blew up. Although they couldn't reject this because Julius Caesar was the king. Well, not the king yet. He wanted to become king so that he could officially make his son have ownership rights and be the heir to this throne. So in order to do this, he needed to be king. So he told Mark Antony, the Senate told him, because of Julius Caesar's wish, Mark Antony, his deputy, is to crown Julius Caesar. And Mark Antony, after all the drama with Cleopatra and him wanting to be king and cut Octavian out so he could make his own son Caesarion, who is also ruler of Egypt, given him heir rights. So Mark Antony openly rejected this, which was praised by the masses. All the people cheered him on, and this pumped him up. So instead of crowning him, he kind of went along with the crowd and was like, F Caesar. And the Senate, along with Mark Antony, go and stab Julius Caesar to death. He is assassinated. And the crown is, instead of Mark Antony putting the crown on him, he crowns himself, and he is the next He is the actual first king of Rome. Now, after all of this, Cleopatra flees. She leaves Rome. What's the matter? Man, I keep fighting with anxiety. I've tried everything, fighting back, ignoring it, even therapy, but it's too expensive.
Just try 3AP. It's K-Type Culture's new mental health service, and each session is under $10. And you can do it over text, phone, even over Zoom. No fight necessary.
No fight.
Nope. 3AP guides you as an observer as your anxiety rather than its opponent, using CBT methods used by professionals, and it can help you too. Go to ktypeculture.com and schedule yours today.
Before then, Cleopatra had been ruling Egypt, but also visiting and staying in Rome for long periods of time, as well as Julius Caesar going to Egypt and spending long periods of time there. And so she flees with Caesarion. And Mark Antony is in Turkey, nearby where she is, and has Cleopatra sent to him. Mark Antony had this brute type of vibe. He was a party guy. He was kind of arrogant, and she was she liked to party. She was more extravagance, charisma, beauty, luxury. They both were all that. So they started throwing parties, both of them. She would show off with her parties and make them super extravagant. Actually, when she was sent to Mark Antony, she made sure she showed up in style. She was laying down and she had people fanning her. Everyone was in beautiful color, and this grabbed his attention. And Mark Antony and Cleopatra spark a fling, and they are in the most extravagant type of love. And they are just getting drunk and having parties and just apparently teasing each other by gambling, not gambling, but competing with one another. But it said that Cleopatra told him that she could spend millions of whatever measurement of money they had at that time, that she could spend all that in one night, and she did. And then she melted a pearl inside of oil and drank it just to show off her luxuriousness. And it worked, because her and Mark Antony hit it off and actually had a pair of twins. Cleopatra gave birth to twins the same year Mark Antony had married Octavia, who is the sister of Octavian, who, if you remember, he was another heir to the Roman throne. He is Julius Caesar's adopted son. He was Caesarion's adopted brother. Now, it's likely that Mark Antony didn't know that Cleopatra was pregnant with these twins, because, like I said, they were partying, outside of Rome, outside of Egypt for some time. And he left, and then she gave birth to the twins. And she had this crazy hold on Mark Antony before then, and even after he found out about the twins. He wanted to make sure, like Julius Caesar did before in his own rule, that his children, him and Cleopatra's children, had rights in his heir, as his heirs. And Mark Antony divorces Octavia. He divorces his wife and has Cleopatra come live with him with their children. And her brother Octavian has had enough. This man not only instigated the killing of his father, but also got with the woman his father was having an affair with, and the reason he got killed in the first place. Not only that, he marries his sister, then divorces her for that woman. So Octavian is absolutely pissed. He's had enough, and he goes to war. He's done with going to war. He's not following in the Senate's footsteps. He's not going to go to war with the ruler of Rome. He's going to war with Cleopatra, and he does so. Now, here's the crazy ending to this love story. Romeo and Juliet is actually based off of this story, okay? So Cleopatra, after she finds out Octavian is going to war with her, he's trying to kill her, she fakes a suicide attempt. So basically, she tells everybody that she's committed suicide. No need to look for me. I'm dead. And they go out and they send word out, and Mark Antony finds out. And Cleopatra's in Rome at the time as well. Mark Antony finds out that Cleopatra has killed herself, and he is just absolutely distressed and says, basically in lesser words, he says, "That's cool. I'll meet you there soon anyway." And Mark Antony actually stabs himself. And when she finds this out, she runs to Mark Antony and she is just distraught, and he sees her and that she's alive, but it's too late for him because he's slipping into death. And she is so distressed at herself that the fact that he's dying, and because of her saying that because of her fake suicide attempt, she is absolutely distressed. Mark Antony dies, and she poisons herself. And when they realized that she had taken this poison, Octavian, who's the new ruler of Rome now, has all of them come in and catch Cleopatra, who's actually not dead, as well as Mark Antony. When they finally arrive to them, they see them both collapse and dead, with Mark Antony died of a stab wound and her death by poison.
What's the matter? Man, I keep fighting with anxiety. I've tried everything, fighting back, ignoring it, even therapy, but it's too expensive. Just try 3AP. It's K-Type Culture's new mental health service, and each session is under $10. And you can do it over text, phone, even over Zoom. No fight necessary.
No fight.
Nope. 3AP guides you as an observer as your anxiety rather than its opponent, using CBT methods used by professionals, and it can help you too. Go to ktypeculture.com and schedule yours today.
Now, Caesarion, the original love child of Cleopatra and Julius Caesar, who has rule over Egypt and rights in Rome, Cleopatra knows that everything's coming to an end as Octavian's looking for her. And she gives her son Caesarion money and food and basically a to-go bag and sends him off and says, you're not safe here. She sends him out of Egypt, out of Rome, to somewhere else because she knows Egypt is about to be taken over as well by Octavian's rule. And she will probably surely be dead, and he was probably surely wanted. So he goes off. Now, rumor is Octavian sent out people to look for Caesarion because although Octavian had rights to the heir, Caesarion also had rights to the heir, and he was the actual blood son of Julius Caesar, and Octavian was only the adopted son. So Octavian knew to protect his heir, he needed to actually get rid of Caesarion. So he had him sent to him he told the people he sent looking for Caesarion that, tell Caesarion I want him to come rule with me in Rome, so to come here and we can rule together. Now, rumor has it Caesarion went back, believed this, and was stabbed to death, and Octavian was given full rule and was later named Augustus, and the month of August was later given to him. And July was named after Julius Caesar. And this story would go on to impact the rest of humanity's history up until the modern point of the present day. Cleopatra and Julius Caesar never interlinked, and Egypt and Rome never met. Some discoveries would have never been shared or even known to this day because Rome actually took out a lot of cultures before them. And along with all of their discoveries and technology and information and documentation, but Egypt's information was shared and kept alive through Cleopatra's help. Our calendar would probably be really effed up if we didn't get the help of the Egyptians and their astronomers and their previous information. Let's disregard the fact that they just added 2 months, August and July, to honor these two guys, which there's also a rumor that they had a gay relationship going on, but we don't know that. There's a lot of evidence, haven't looked into it. But we wouldn't have a lot of things if it wasn't for this. Wouldn't have Romeo and Juliet as a story either. And Egypt would have probably been taken over a long time before then. Before Cleopatra rolled herself up in a rug and seduced the ruler of Rome, and the next one to follow. Just amazing. This girl, charisma and beauty ain't enough to describe it. The woman was magic. She was a sorceress and a intelligent ruler. And this is just an insane story to me. Until next time, humanity. Don't change a thing, you are amazing.
Hello, humanity. Highlighting humanity one vibe at a time. Because little by little, piece by piece, we are a masterpiece.